All right, so now we get to learn a lot more about what it really means to live on this little planet, helping other people. Clay and I got to talk about it. Clay, I can't imagine people aren't going to have just a kick out of this whole chat that we've had here and what we do to put smiles on faces and make the world a better place. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more. Welcome back, everybody. Your little castle show, Clay Marquis.
I
said it right the 15th time. It took me 14 tries to get it right. Because, as a connoisseur à la française, Mrs. Larson. Is it Miss Larson? Mrs. Larson. I took French. I used to have a cheat sheet underneath my... I don't know what happened. What are you talking about? I didn't say that out loud. But we would study, and we were allowed to have a cheat sheet, as long as she didn't notice. Je m'appelle Cartier. So when I see Mark, Q-U-I-S, we were trained as French connoisseurs. Not that I'm any... Je m'appelle Cartier, tu m'appelles. That's about all I know in French. But quiz. You've done it the American way. I like that. We're in America. Back to our first show. If you didn't see the first show, we talked about that briefly. We're not going to talk about that all day here because we got much more important things to talk about. But Clay, is it Clayton or Clayton?
My actual name is Clayton, but okay. I go by Clay.
Yeah. And he lives in America, so we say it the American way. Okay. Yes. Thank you. And Jason Marquis, catch up, man. You need to. He played for the Cardinals. Good guy. I never got to meet Jason, but all right.
Pitcher.
Great pitcher for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. All right, so with that, shout out to our sponsors. This show would not happen without support from the community, from the other businesses that love what we're doing. Clay for coming here to talk about it, but the other people that are helping us. Brooke right there, he was my first guest. He aired the second show because we actually had a pastor was my first guest, a marriage counselor, and Dave Rispoli. And I knew when we started off, if pastors were wanting to be on the show and help us to put together a show, then it was something that would work. And he's got that video on his website. It was on 3 years ago. So here we are, Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things. Where do you like nice things? In your little castle. See what I did there?
Very nice.
And it might be a castle, it should be a castle, that Clay and his company, HomePro Services, has helped you to make look more beautiful. Remodeling kitchens, baths, and anything inside.
Basements.
Windows,
doors, siding. Decks, so we pretty much do it all.
There it is, and 23 years doing it, so you know that they'll be around when you need them. But another shout out then to our newest sponsor, and these guys have made this a lot easier for us because they're making it happen with me in a number of ways, and the sponsorship that they're doing is awesome, and they're such an awesome company. My Metal Pro, if you've studied the gold market, I had not. I am not an expert of gold. I have learned a whole lot about gold. But if you would like to know more about gold and see the rate of return, I'm one of these guys that studies the stock market, and I know what the rate of return should average versus what some of these investment experts tell you because they're selling a fund that doesn't perform well, but they get paid a higher commission if they sell it. I'm not naming anybody. I'm just telling you I know that happens. I can prove that it happened to my family. And it's fine. But we all got to make a living. And it's, oh, well, that's what they wanted, something that was more, come on, get the rate of return that should be averaged and do it right. Study the history of gold. Go to My Metal Pro. You can check out there. That's my buddy Curtis. And he is the top distributor for the entire company where they do this through. And they've done a great job. But if you want more information, go to goldcowboy.com. Believe it or not, that domain was not taken. I made with AI. I took my logo that was created back in college, so 30 years ago, and that AI. I said make this. You can upload the image, and it says make it into whatever you want to, and I said make it into a gold version, and that's what it made out of it. Is that kind of funny? Got the buff cowboy there because that's obviously a good representation of the Cardinal Cowboy with my buffness. But there's the CEO of 7K, which is where Curtis's My Metal Pro is their #1 distributor in the company. And they just give you lots of information, and he had a great interview. Watch that interview. It aired a couple weeks ago on ABC. Jason Arman is his name. So with that, let's get into talking more about how you've got your gold, you've got your money, you want to make sure and improve the value of your home. Hey, is that a concept? How often do people have a house that, like, if they're going to go to sell it, they're going to lose money?
Yeah, if you don't take care of your treasure, it's not going to take care of itself. So that's why I'm in business, to help you take care of your treasure.
Well, and we talk about, let's go down that method before I get to, I've got the second set of questions here. We got through the first set, but we're going to go through the second set here. I've got about 20 questions outlined. My mom made me, she says, you write, actually didn't make me, but I've learned this from my mom. Always said, do it on time, do it right, document it, write it down. Then I don't miss anything, usually, right? I get off on my creative caveats, but what was I saying? All right, so, but the bottom line is, how often is this the case? That you go into somebody's house, and you're doing work for them that may be $5, $10, $15, $20, $100,000, but the value of their house, because it's an appreciating asset if you improve the quality. Now a house that, let's say, was a $300,000 house, you did $50,000 worth of work, and now they sell it for $425,000. They gained way more than what you put into it, and now they've got a more valuable asset than before they started. This is what house flippers do all day long. Why can't the average consumer effectively do the same thing? Is that true?
Absolutely. Your home is your number one investment. Sometimes it's about location, but most of the time it's about budgeting your money well for what improvements you're going to do to keep it within that cost-effective range if you are ready to sell.
And so these are the types of things. A lot of people, and I went through a long process. Somebody very close to me, you can guess who that might be. Take a wild guess. But parents passed, inherited houses. One house, parents were separated, so there's two separate houses involved with this. But the one house, I literally went back and forth with people that I know that are friends that I've known for years that buy houses, and then we'll turn around and remodel them, take them at whatever level they're at. This house needed some work, not a ton, but a fair amount. And boy, because I negotiate, and finally, two of the guys said, I will never do it for that price. If you got a guy willing to pay that price for your house that's not remodeled, take it. And then they came back to us last minute and said, we got to drop it down $7,000. And I said, hey, that probably, then they're making at least $7,000. They're kind of letting us know they're making $7,000 off of it. But the guy told me, he says, man, Cowboy, you're one heck of a negotiator. Or else, and I just happen to have a guy. The only reason this worked is because he was a brand new guy trying to do this, and he wanted to get his first house flip done. And if I hadn't been in that little bitty situation with that particular person at that particular time with that house, that would not have happened. Most people don't have that type of situation and cannot pull all that together. Because the other two guys are like, we'll buy it from you, but we're not going to make money unless we do this much work, and then we've got to make a profit. We're not doing this to break even. This is the kind of thing some people may need to consider. Rather than just walk away from a house, rather than just have you come in and bring that value of that house up before they sell it, or at 10 years before they know they're going to sell it. Is that a fair plan of attack for some people?
Absolutely. If you you got to know the value of your home before and what you think it's worth after, and then do the math. Generally, you're going to make money on your home. But again, location has something to do with that, and the age of the home and certain other factors. But if you put money into your home, you're probably going to get it back.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be something. What would people not make money off of on their home? I guess pools don't always improve the value. Is that true? Because there's sometimes more.
A lot of times it detracts from the value. Depends on the neighborhood and
depends on who's buying the house. I don't want a pool, but
your
I like.
Market is, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm trying to think about what can you do that wouldn't improve the value. You finish a basement. How many basement finishings do you do?
Oh,
I mean, that's every year.
Done 70, 80 maybe basement remodels.
And normally that's a basement that's unfinished in Missouri, St. Louis. I know you go a little bit further south, just down to, my buddy moved to Memphis, and he said in Memphis we don't have basements because the water level or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But in St. Louis you do 90% of the time, 98% of the time, most of the time. But that allows for another unfinished space that, like, literally can you almost double the value of a house. You finish off that whole second level, if you will. It's the lower level. Now you've got a house that's worth $350 when it was originally worth $225, or not quite double there, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. The first home I owned, that was what I did. I remodeled my own basements when I was still selling paint, but remodeled that basement, doubled what I made on the house. So it made a big deal. It was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Just starting out.
And that's something that anybody can do if they have that asset. That's an empty base as an asset. And then what else are there? We've kind of touched on that one, but I mean, literally, like by adding better quality siding, getting a new roof. What are all the things that you think you help most with people? Kitchens and bathrooms make houses go up in great value, don't they?
That's the two big ones. Kitchens and baths help the value a lot. Also, making sure your windows are good and your R value is good with the cost of energy nowadays. You've got to do some work on that side of the coin too. So,
Okay, now you hit on something there that I didn't know. R value. See, I get to learn here. I love it. What's R value? Why is that important?
It's the transfer of heat and cold through a surface, and whether it has an R value of 1, 2, 3. Our attics generally are best at like an R30 or above. Your walls are generally like an R13 or above, hopefully above. The better R value, the less loss of transfer of heat that you're going to have. And it just makes your house worth more and more efficient for you as you live there.
Yeah, I didn't realize how. That's another fact. I've had a couple of remodeling units, and we just, not that they don't know what they're talking about. I'm just saying they just didn't talk about that particular caveat. But it's another thing that says this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you hire experts. I'll tell you, I love my dad, wonderful human being, helped 4,000 kids get educated. Didn't make a lot of money, wasn't all about the money. He worked at a college, it was small in the middle of Missouri, and I added it up, it's about 4,000 kids he personally enrolled in that college. But he was not as much of a plumber as he might have thought he was. And he did a great job. And we finished my mom's basement, my parents' basement, and now my mom has it because Dad's up in heaven. But I know he's in heaven, okay? But he's a good guy. But this just came up. Tell me, have you heard this before? A vent for your plumbing?
Oh, sure.
What is the vent for you? What? Why do you need a
the
vent?
vent stack generally goes through the roof, and that creates, first of all, an escape for sewer gas, but also so that your plumbing doesn't create a vacuum as you try to flush the toilet, or as the water runs down the drain. It alleviates that vacuum cause and makes your plumbing flow better.
Yeah, because we got a call from we've now rented the carriage houses, which are next to the big house that my dad grew up in the middle of Fayette. We drove down there yesterday to find out we had to change the batteries in the door. They had the keypad. I thought that would be something that we figured out before we did that. Long story, but anyway, when there I'm looking at the plumbing issue that supposedly was an issue, and a pipe just wouldn't been. I think somebody installed it and put it at a little bit of an angle, so the pressure caused it to pop off, and I just reattached it. But after it did go down, I heard this go 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 go. That's because he said, "Oh, there's no vent." The guy didn't even look at it. He goes, "I know there's no vent in there." This guy in the middle of Missouri that told us this bit, and I'm like, "What does that mean? A vent in a water thing? You can't have air." No, but the truth is, there's some way the vent allows air is allowed into that system.
Yeah.
And the example I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to imagine I'm practical with how these things work. But how many people taking a straw, put it in your drink, and they'll taste like you can taste somebody else's drink without touching the drink. By taking, and you see, oh, what kind of drink did you? Oh, let me taste that. Well, you don't put up your mouth, you have to make a new drink. You take a straw, brand new straw, you put it into the glass, you put your finger on the top of it, and the depth that you put it in there will then be sucked with vacuum. Even the bottom of the straw is open because the vacuum, you capped it at the top,
Yep.
keeps that little sliver of beverage in there, and then you can go like this, and oh, that is the right drink, or that wasn't the. But that's the vacuum we're talking about. Is that true?
Yeah.
And it's just keeping. So then your pipes can get. This is the problem. Then the pipes got backed up, and then we couldn't. Then there was water overflowing. This is not good. Don't do it yourself, kind of thing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, plumbing is another one that it's got to be done right. The codes change all the time, and it's got to be done right. And if you don't, you're going to pay the price later.
And my mom and I talked about it. She goes, by the way, your father did the plumbing in the house in the basement, and the same problem is there too. But who knows about? You looked it up. When you're installing plumbing, vent. Point is, get the experts, because now we're gonna have to rip out a bunch of stuff to replace whatever to put the vent piece in there. The trap, he called it, a couple things. You know what I'm talking. See, Clay knows what I'm talking about. He's like, yep. I don't know what the trap, the vent, what? You need a TV show made? I'll help you with that. But other than that, back to would a consumer ever try to take these tasks on themselves? Are they trying to save money, right?
Most of them are. Most of them are trying to save money, which we all want to do. But there's certain things that you should leave to a professional.
Okay, because if you don't, you cost yourself a lot
As
more.
you said earlier, expensive to be cheap.
That's a better way. See, he's being better at using my phrases. It gets very cheap, becomes very it's expensive to get cheap. Cheap. Say it again for me.
I don't even know what I said.
Cheap gets expensive.
Yeah,
Cheap gets expensive. That's
It's expensive ain't cheap.
expensive ain't cheap.
Yeah.
That's even better. All right, so there you. That's why we bring the experts in
That's
here.
the wrong way of saying it, though. The more I think about it.
But bottom line is, don't try to cut so many corners. And you could, if you're going to cut corners, then like leave something out that you're not going to even touch, rather than trying to make things cheaper for the things that you already have. Toilet, that's plumbing. Let's use some duct tape to hold the toilet down, right? That'll work for
Never
a week.
works.
For a week. Not the way you want to do things. All right, I want to get back into. I'm going to pull up some reviews you've got here.
Okay.
And I had forgotten to pull those up, so I'm going to put the camera on you. I'm telling everybody, I'm going to put the camera on Mr. Marquis.
Yes.
That's right, not Marquis Clay. Tell me about when you've dealt with a particular problem where somebody wanted to do it themselves, or just give me an example of somebody where you saw a problem, you came in and fixed it. You talked about a couple things. I like the way you donated the labor for a park. Tell me about those kinds of situations where you've helped people like that.
Well, the park was in honor of my late stepfather and my mother in Godfrey, and they had a bid to build a wooden pergola in the park, and it was not in the budget. So I donated the labor, and the village paid for the cedar lumber to build the pergola at Hoffman Gardens. It's on the River Road in Godfrey, and it was a lot of fun to build it, especially knowing who it was going to honor. And that was shortly before I lost my mom. My stepfather was already gone, but it was quite a fun project, and it withstood 2 floods, and it still stands today. So we're very proud of it.
Well, I think I found you here. I want to put this up on the wall for everybody. But is that HomePro? No, that's not you, is it? Is that you? No. HomePro, sir. But we got your BBB here. It's at 1719. Did you grow up with 1719? I grew up with 1719 also. Stemwood Way in Fenton, if anybody wants to look it up. But is that the home address for you? So do you run the business?
Home and office.
Home and office, run that. That saves money too. Trust me, that's a good way to do it. 22 years in business, coming 23rd year now, since 2002.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so let me put that up on the screen for everybody. Take a look here, because you know when you're getting into a company that has that kind of history, and there it is, everybody. That's what I want to show everybody. This 11-foot wall. Did I hit the right button? There it is. Good. And there it is. So I'll scroll back up to the top here. Look. There they are. There's the phone number. And down here, there's that rating, A+. How important is it for you to have earned that A+? Does that help you as a business owner?
Of course it does. It shows your reputation and how willing you are to work with the customer if there is an issue to resolve it.
Yeah, well, if you don't resolve issues, then you haven't been on our planet too long, because it's a matter of time. You're going to have an issue that must be
always
resolved.
issues. Yeah.
I make my joke that we're here for God's entertainment, and He made it because if everything just worked out perfectly, that would be boring. So create these creatures. We're a little smarter than the dinosaurs, but we don't have everything just figured out. Why did it take us until 1861? Clay's background is as a chemist.
Well, my college days spent in the lab, yeah.
But studying chemistry, I guess.
Yes.
But and so I was curious to me about how that works, and elements and that to help you. Then, like when I'm building a building, the pieces got to work together.
I had too much fun in the chemistry lab, and the day I graduated, my main chemistry professor approached me after graduation. He said, "Clay, go into sales." So that was that, So he knew my future wasn't in chemistry right from the get-go. I had too much fun.
Well, we can all appreciate that, and putting a smile on people's faces is one of the most important things I think you can do on this planet. At the same time, you got to make a living, so might as well give them a product that they need, and that's anybody live in a house? Like 96% of people. I don't know what percentage it is. I guess there are apartments, but it's still a form of a house. It's a building. But yeah, I'm looking here at the website behind us. Lots of information here I want to touch on. But other services, custom closets, doors, windows, house painter, right? Interior painting, painting contractor, residential painting, siding, decks and patios. All that information. Tell me which one you'd like me to pick here to show everybody.
Let me get my glasses on because I can't see that far.
All right. Decks and patios, siding, General contractor.
Decks and patios we do a lot of decks and patios.
Okay, let's take a look at that for everybody. So I'm putting this up here on the wall. And so here's the information for you. And so a great review of here is, if you want to, problems, we'll fix them, no matter how big or small. There's a page dedicated to this that we're talking about the things that people need to know before they make this kind of a decision, right?
Yep.
Because when you've got a deck, patio, and concrete, that's one of the biggest things. How many people are trying to do their own concrete and they end up in a situation where it's lopsided, they've got the lines through the middle? A key element for patios and decks, true? Mm-hmm. Especially the supports at the bottom, the poles, those got to be how deep in the
36 inches
below the permafrost and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, is this more evidence? As you're sharing so much information out here, this website is loaded, everybody. I was initially looking at here, I'm like, holy cow, there's subcategories of categories, but you're just trying to share great information with everybody to help them do that. What I also want to talk about, and there's that phone number. Good that you have that right at the top of the page, everybody. 618-225-9019, right? Is that a good number?
That is.
All right.
The only number.
The only number. And right here you can see, they even show the general area that goes over into Missouri a little bit, but fill out this form. So one thing I ask people is, how does somebody get started with you? Pretty easy. Call you.
Yeah.
Fill out the form, right? Set up appointments between 7 a.m. So it's about the time I go to bed. So, but a couple hours earlier sometimes. Fill out that form. It goes right to you, and then the phone number right there as well. And they can call that. And look at that email. You put your own personal email on there too, don't you? And there was somebody in the country called Marquis, not Marquise, or Marquis, whatever they were. But you had to put the one on the end of it there. So you got that. So there it is, everybody. Yep. That's kind of cool. You got your own there. It's just personal email right there, everybody. If you want to get a hold of them. And then, do you get some people through email that contact you?
Occasionally, I do. Occasionally. You can do it through the website. You can contact me. Just click on a button and it'll contact me. You can fill in your information. Most of the time, it's phone call. Most of the time.
So somebody personal, and they're calling direct to you.
Yep.
The boss. They talk to the boss.
I get a lot of prior clients, so they know my phone number. It's in their speed dial sometimes.
If you have a home remodeling question, issue, upgrade, or just general need some information, call Clay.
Call me.
He'll help you to figure that out and make sure that it gets done correctly. Very cool. All right, we went off on a lot of tangents there. I will share a little bit if you guys want to learn more about the show and what we do here. There it is. Magnetize. Wrong camera. All right, there it is. Magnetize Media. I wrote the foreword. I wrote essentially a chapter. Like Cardi wrote the first chapter, kind of. Like it's supposed to be 500 words. I got up to 1,800 words, I think. But they said I wrote that. Now it's a not New York Times. It's an Amazon best-selling #1 book for our category, and that's kind of neat.
Nice.
But those are cool. But the reason I share that a little bit is to say, generally, I know what I'm talking about in certain realms with regard to evaluations. My technical background was a technical analyst. Like I had to figure out things that Microsoft didn't know, because they build their product and they got things coming in from all different directions. And when it came together, it got put in production, and I'm there at Anheuser-Busch going, hey, I got the blue screen, the blue screen of death. People have heard about the blue screen of death. It gave me this code. Here's the things that I had going into it. This is what I think is the problem. And it's usually a hardware related to a software issue. And they're like, oh, we didn't know that. Thank you, Cardinal Cowboy, for helping us fix our problem. It became a Q article at that point. My point is, I like to analyze things critically to say, and ultimately, I think it's so much more about getting to know the person you're talking to. And that's why I appreciate you coming not for one, but 2 half-hour discussions here as we got into this. We got 5 minutes left. We had already another appointment scheduled. I called them and said, hey, we're running over a little bit because I wanted to talk a little bit longer here with our guest Clay and talk more about it. But how has technology changed the way you do business? 23 years, you've seen a big change here from where it was.
Yeah.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. Back in the day, I had a map, paper map.
Street maps, right? Street guide.
Street map in my truck, and that's how I found where I was going. Although my local area I know very well, and I don't need to look at a map. But nowadays, you just push a button and it tells you where to go. So,
That's true.
And also my appointments, all right there in my handheld device. So it has changed my business dramatically over the years, and certainly it has affected the work too, because newer products come along that are better than what we had before.
Well, let's put that hat on here because you deserve, as a community leader, I get to anoint, not really, I'm just saying, hey man, here's a good, cute, cool guy in our community. I should have put the hat on a while ago, but I put that on when you say something community. So it was like 20 minutes ago I should have put the hat on because he's doing so much in our community. But tell me then, as a matter of doing this, I got a couple questions I want to ask you here, but what is one big challenge that you've overcome as a business owner over the years? And you've had a few big things, career changes that affected the way where you go with your life.
Yeah. Probably the biggest challenge that I faced was in '06 when the housing market crashed. I was flipping houses as well as doing remodeling. And, the bank called and said, we're calling you. I was doing 3 at the time. And they said, we're calling your notes due. And no more money on these accounts. And I was in the middle. So I had to do what I could to get them ready for rent, because I had to do something with them to bring in income. And it about put me under. So that was probably the biggest challenge that I faced in my career. But I made it through. And I still have those rental properties today, and someday they'll pay off. That's
what life's about there, everybody. Adversity. Whoever can respond to adversity the best wins. And that's that's got to be heart-wrenching. Somebody says, by the way, you got this loan, you got this amount, you can pay it over this amount of time. We just changed our mind.
I laid in bed at night. I had 2 sons that I love very much. Still have 2 sons. And they were young. And I'd lay in bed at night wondering if I was going to have to call an attorney to declare bankruptcy and how I was going to get the next meal. So I made it through.
Oh, wow. I don't pretend that I'm not emotional. People know that a little about me. I stand there at a funeral or whatever, I start crying.
I do too.
The impact that it has and the things that people do to make an impact and the good things that people do. I like to emphasize those. We like to highlight those because so often we talk about the bad things because that's what sticks out in our mind and what went wrong and how terrible that was. But I want to highlight the people that are doing the good things like yourself, especially somebody who's made it for 23 years. Man, that's tough. Your own business.
It's been a great ride.
It has. You only get one shot at this ride, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're 53. I just turned 53. I feel like I'm 28. Where'd it go so fast? But business owners like Clay here who are making it for so long.
23 years of meeting neighbors and making friends.
Meeting neighbors. He came up with that when I said, what's your tagline? He says, well, I don't know. I'm not a big marketing guy. We don't spend a lot of time on this stuff. But do I switch to there? If I hit that one button, there it is. Meeting neighbors, making friends. One of the best taglines I've ever heard, everybody. And that's really what life is about. If you want to be happy on this planet, making a lot of money is important for some people. Making a living is what we really have to do. But if you can also impact the people on our planet and do that at the same time, that's what it is. Do you have a favorite quote, something that sticks out in your mind, something you kind of live by as a mantra? I talk to my dad still these days, even though he's in heaven. But one of my favorites was, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you are correct.
Mm-hmm. My dad used to say, and I've used it many times in my life, time will tell. And there's a word that I can't use on your program next. Time will tell, blank will smell, and water will seek its own level. And if you live your life like that, you don't stress as much when you realize what those words mean.
Think about that one, everybody. Insert the word you know is about, but things sometimes get tough, I guess is what.
Sure.
But you have to, when we kind of talked about that. Great interview. Thank you for spending some time with us here in our studio today.
Thank you.
Clay. All right, everybody, stay tuned. This is your little castle show. Giddy up.